Hi, this is Steve.
This is Bob.
This is Jay.
And we are Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show. We review anything science fiction that catches our fancy, right? And this is one of our special top 10 lists episodes. We're going to review the best science fiction spaceships of all time. We have our own lists.
We got to focus for movies and TV.
Movies and
right?
TV, yeah.
Right.
We're not going to include like video games and all other sources, but just movie, TV. It had to appear somewhere in a movie or TV, right? And we have our own lists, but we're going to start, I think, with the obvious overlap, the ships that made it onto all three of our lists.
Sure.
So we all know what the top couple are. So Jay, what's your favorite ship of all time?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Now, when you say favorite, are you saying like the ship that I would want to live on myself or own myself type of thing?
So there's a few criteria that we could use, right? One is if you could own one ship that you could actually pilot and live on, what would it be? Or just what is just your favorite ship in terms of, we have to come up with a bunch of different criteria. Most iconic, most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, powerful, fast, overall utility.
All right. Okay. So
let's just say, what's your favorite ship?
My knee jerk, like which one is the coolest and all that. I love the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It definitely is rooted in my childhood. I love ships that you feel are kind of lived in, that have a little bit of like almost like a hominess to them.
Lived in?
Yeah, it is very lived in. And there's something very romantic about that ship. It's a smuggler ship, but it's really cool. And there's detail. I know a lot of stuff about the Millennium Falcon, and I'm watching actually online. There's a guy that's building a life-size Millennium Falcon.
Life-size?
Yeah, I've been looking at this guy's website for a couple of years now.
Damn.
He's like constantly building.
How long
stuff.
has it been taking?
A very long time. I mean, he's been working on the cockpit for over
I know how long
a
it's
half,
taken.
A couple of years, right?
It's taken 12 parsecs.
12
But,
parsecs.
But yeah, overall,
reminds me of the guy who's building the Ark. That's a lifetime endeavor.
Yeah. But overall, it's definitely between that and the classic original series Enterprise.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Millennium Falcon for a bit first, because that made my top 5 list as well. Because it's the most it's one of the most, if not the most iconic personal ship, right? It's a smuggler's personal ship. There's not like a big crew or anything. It's small. Positive side, it's just a gorgeous ship.
Right.
Again, it's just
aesthetically,
it's beautiful. It's fast for its genre. Again, it's not fast maybe compared to other genres, but for Star Wars, it's fast. So compared to other ships that it would be racing against. Downside is that it's a hunk of junk, right? The thing is always on the verge of breaking down, and that's a huge negative, to the ship. Certainly, I wouldn't be my top choice as the ship that I would want to own personally, because it's a full-time job keeping that thing running.
Yeah.
I would say romantic is the perfect word for the Millennium Falcon. It's probably the most romantic choice for a favorite sci-fi spaceship.
Want to hear a cool fact?
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon was supposed to be Princess Leia's ship in the opening scene of Star Wars Episode 4.
Now, see, I read just today that it was not that ship; it was another Rebel ship. It was the rammer, and
you mean the Corvette?
Maybe the Corvette. Yeah, so it was the Line Runner. They call it the Line Runner. It wasn't Princess Leia's ship. It was another similar-looking ship but they thought it looked too much like the Space 1999 Eagle.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
heard that as well.
So then they said, build me, think flying saucer, and build me go another way. And that's what they. I also read, tell me if you read this as well, that this was a kit job. Like they just took pieces from different kits and put it together, like in the studio, to put it together.
Yeah, like they call it kit bashing or whatever. Where you just buy a whole bunch of stuff and you do that. It's very typical, by the way. I mean, that's not unique to the Millennium Falcon in any way. But I do think that you're wrong. I disagree. It was definitely Princess Leia's ship. I mean, I saw an entire...
So we'll double check that and we'll show an image of the actual ship that it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. In post-production, I'll just say Jay was right or Steve was right, flashing on the screen right here. And now that you know I'm right... Let's move on. We want to continue to talk about it?
I'm just saying what I read. You have anything to add about the Millennium Falcon, or should we go on to the number 2?
I'll give you a couple things. I mean, Millennium Falcon, in a pinch, the ship is watching out for you, right? So, but in The Empire Strikes Back, remember when the gun comes down?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's always got your back. Yeah. That ship is actually pretty awesome.
I love that scene.
I do love that ship.
Shall we segue to mosey to the other most iconic ship
that's on all three of our lists?
It's on all three of our lists, yeah.
Of course. Star Trek's Enterprise.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Original series.
Well, okay, that's not a ship noise. But all right, come on, the Enterprise.
Yeah.
This is the ship. To me, this is the most iconic ship. This. I mean, what else can we? I mean, this is. I don't even know where to begin with this guy. First off, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think aesthetically, I love it because when you look at it, it looks like a starship. It looks like something that is flying between solar systems,
Right.
not something that is landing on a planet, right? It doesn't look like a car or a plane. You know what I mean? It's not an extrapolation of any earthbound vehicle. It's its own thing. And you also get the feeling that the design derives from the tech, right? You got the nacelles, they're where they have to be in order for the whole thing to work.
Right.
You have the living section separate from the engineering section. And the other thing that I think tells you that it's its own design and it's beautiful is how many variations there have been on this. It had so much staying power in the franchise, and you could just do endless variations, which of course means we have to all say, what's your favorite variation on the basic
Right, and that's
design?
That's a hard question.
That's
to
such a
answer.
good point, because just Google this. Just Google Starfleet, Starship, Spaceship,
Yeah.
and you will see thousands of designs. Designs that have been in the movies and the TV shows, and you'll see designs people have just come up with,
Yeah.
and they are gorgeous.
All variations on an iconic theme.
Right, when you see it, you'll be like, that is my favorite. And I have some favorites. The Enterprise, of course, the original Enterprise, NCC 1701,
Has a place in our heart,
will
yeah.
always be there. But for me, I've got a couple favorites. In terms of a go-to, I want it. It's got to be NCC 1701J.
You always
Yeah.
go to that.
I always go to the J, and unfortunately, it had only a brief mention in one episode of Enterprise, Azadi Prime, 26th century universe class ship. This was a possible future. It's I would say it's canon because it was in
They mentioned it in
an
the
episode.
show. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
this ship was gorgeous, and you'll see some images of it on the screen. It was. First off, it was gargantuan, 2 miles long. 2 miles. This is a fantastically huge ship. It also has, there weren't too many details on its drive systems, but it could go to different galaxies, not just stars within the Milky Way, to different galaxies. It was an exploration ship.
Hyperdrive.
But let me
It's
tell you,
hyper warp
something
drive.
else. I totally understand why you love that ship, but I can't even picture it in my mind. Like
Google it.
I know this ship
Right.
intimately, right? I watched every episode. I spent a lot of time virtually on that ship, and then on top of that, we went to the Star Trek Museum in upstate New York.
Right.
And I don't think that I would have had that emotional reaction, even walking on as a Millennium Falcon, like life-size prop. I don't think I would have reacted the way I
No,
reacted
you're right.
to that.
That was I'll never forget that feeling, seeing that full.
We grew up
full
on the bridge
ship.
of the Enterprise.
Right.
That's
You can't. There's no
It's
comparison.
it's not fair to even
Right.
compare the ships to it. But in terms of just aesthetics from the outside, my favorite variant recently is the Aegis class ship. The first one being the USS Aegis. So that's the one that you look at when you're playing Bridge Crew, the video game Bridge Crew.
Yep.
Well, this is what I like about
Okay.
it. So the nacelles are much closer down to engineering. They're not sticking way
Which
up.
seems reasonable,
It
right?
seems reasonable. And the dish, the main saucer section is, again, more squat down to engineering. And so it has a
Right.
much sleeker,
Yep.
much more realistic feel in terms of the forces involved, in this ship. You don't feel like you have these big things hanging out. And just, it was a very graceful, beautiful, I think the epitome of this overall ship concept. So I love it. I also like the Discovery version.
That ship is
Star
growing
Trek
on me a
Discovery.
lot.
It's growing on me a lot
It
too.
really is.
But I think I would give a little bit of a nod to the Aegis class. But they're all beautiful.
Yeah, they are. If I had to pick one that I just aesthetically that I love, I think it was the Prometheus class. This is the four nacelles.
Yeah.
Four nacelles. It was
Yeah.
in an episode of Voyager. And you're right, Steve. I like the aesthetic of the shorter struts.
Yeah.
The closer the saucer is to engineering, and even not even a circular primary hull, but even one that's more even wedge shaped. And the other fascinating, awesome idea that this four nacelle ship had was it could separate into 3 sections.
Oh, 3 sections.
Three sections each, and each section can work in unison. So if you were going up against that ship, you were toast. You were toast. Not only was it incredibly fast, 4 nacelles, but this thing can separate and all fight together as a unit, man. You were toast. And it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So that would be one of the ships that I would pick.
And I like the idea that, if your warp engine is going critical, you separate the saucer section. So we kind of make the design of the ship has a practical sort of function to it. And then, so that's aesthetics, it's iconic.
Right.
Let's talk about power. Any iteration of the Enterprise is a powerful ship for its genre, for its universe. And very versatile, obviously. It takes a kind of a big crew to run the full thing.
Yeah,
so it's not
hundreds.
It's not a personal ship. It's a military, or at least not military.
Scientific.
It's a scientific ship, but it's the kind of thing where you want like hundreds of people on there running the ship.
But there's things we know that
Unless the
Enterprise
M1 is
has,
running
though.
the ship, but go ahead.
Like
It's got transporter.
Yeah,
it's pretty
that's what I was
cool.
gonna go
A
for.
holodeck, food replicators.
Exactly.
It's got the goods in terms of
and
just
the med bay is like better than I
Yeah.
can think of any ship's med bay. That,
Almost as good as Starfleet, not quite,
Yeah.
but it's self-contained awesomeness, and for sure you need a lot of people. But
so it definitely
but
earns its way on the top 10. So I
Right.
have to say though, I really don't like Star Trek: The Next Generation version of the ship. I just don't like it. It's too bottom heavy. It looks fat.
I agree. The overall design is not
it
that
looks
great.
distorted. It lost all the grace and beauty of the original design. I don't like it.
What I'll say regarding that is that it hasn't aged as well, because when you look at some of the sleeker, gorgeous designs that I've seen lately, that the next gen ship that doesn't really
It just means
hold
I
it
called
anymore.
it 20 years ago.
Yeah, the earth tones of the bridge to me, I didn't really like I know this might sound funny. I didn't like the color palette on the bridge. I really didn't like it.
Yeah, come on, a few throw pillows, some window treatments. I mean, come on.
Look, I'm a winter, okay? But the bottom line is, sorry, I can't leave that guy in the jar. The bottom line is nothing beats the aesthetic of the original ship. Nothing beats it. There is something so wonderful about it, and I think part of it has to do with the competency porn of that series.
Yeah.
And the relationship that was going on in that ship was the first time we saw that competent friend relationship in a sci-fi movie that I really enjoyed. I really felt was
a really positive view of the future,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a staple of science fiction at that time.
All right, let's move on to another ship now.
Okay, so we're still in what the ships
crossover
we
ships.
agree on should be in the top 5. Is there another one beyond those two?
Star Destroyer from Star Wars.
That's on my list. Does it make your top 5?
It could, it's awesome. I don't have much to say about it.
Well, let's talk about. Let's just go by its first entrance. Right after we see Princess Leia's ship, we see the Star Destroyer coming and following her. And the thing about that ship that was impressive, and I think it landed here more than any other science fiction movie I've ever seen, except in the Nostromo, is the size of that ship. Yeah, the Nostromo, they did it too in that movie, and you really felt it. But this was the first time.
The Nostromo is a utility truck. It's a hauling vehicle.
Exactly.
It has no grace, no aesthetics.
It wasn't even pretty. Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be. It's an ugly trucker version of a ship.
Yeah.
Whereas the Star Destroyer, it did everything it was supposed to do. It was imposing, it was beautiful, but it was menacing.
Yeah.
And like when you see deadly. When you see a Star Destroyer, your shit is in the
soil your
sling.
pants.
Yeah, absolutely.
It had. You know what's funny? I realized is that it has if you see the shadow of a Star Destroyer and you see Darth Vader's shadow, they both have very identifiable and scary looking shadows, right? And that's the thing. It has that sleek to it and that evilness to it built right into the
So it's
design.
probably the best military spaceship, I think, in science fiction.
Yeah.
And what else I like about it is that it makes sense from some point of view in that I love the triangular design. You have the engines in the back, flared out, and it's sort of projecting forward, coming to a point.
Like a spearhead.
Yeah, so the physics makes sense. So I know you don't have to be aerodynamic in space, but you still are pushing the rest of the ship forward with the engines, and the lines of force need to make sense. You don't want things hanging out or whatever. So I do like the ergonomics, if you will. It looks like a very efficient, space-worthy ship, and I love that. What I don't like about it is what I don't like about almost every single starship or spaceship in science fiction.
Exposed command center.
Well, that's one. There's two. That's one.
Okay. I got one of them.
One of them is that, you don't put the command center in a vulnerable spot on the outside of your ship.
Right.
That's in the dead center.
Aim for this.
Again, it's a staple.
That.
It's a staple of science fiction. I hate it. It should be in the dead center, most shielded, protected part of the ship. But also is that you should be standing up away from the engines, right? Your head should be pointing in the direction that the ship is going. It makes. Why wouldn't you do that?
Because in
You
all of
shouldn't. You
these
wouldn't be
ships, there's-
standing up, and you shouldn't be accelerating this way because then the lines of force don't make any sense. I know they have artificial gravity, but whatever. Even with artificial gravity, that takes a lot of power, and you're still going to be working against the acceleration. You have to have inertial dampeners, whatever, just throw out your terms there.
Yeah.
Or you could just accelerate. You could be standing up in the direction that you're accelerating, and you use the acceleration as your gravity, and then you can tweak it based upon your acceleration.
Big tweaks, but
Ships would be, so I love the ships that are designed for space.
Right.
They are not derived from vehicles that we're used to seeing on Earth. It's not a boat in space.
Right, and,
You know
and they
what I
don't
mean?
do maneuvers that planes do in an atmosphere.
Yes.
Come on.
So that's a couple of dings against the Star Destroyer, but I still do love the space worthiness of the design.
Well, you're dinging every ship.
That's why,
Pretty
because
much.
I'm digging almost every ship. There's not everyone.
Well,
Because
the Expanse handles.
Well, the
handles whole thing
Expanse,
great.
we're going to be reviewing the Expanse separately, but yeah, the Expanse ships are fantastic. But I love it when I'm looking at a spaceship and I'm like, oh wow, that's a totally bizarre design that makes no sense for a planet-bound ship. It makes perfect sense for a spaceship. I love that. And
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, another one. This is a top 10. I wouldn't put this on my top 5, but Slave One. I hate to do another Star Wars ship, but Boba Fett's Slave One ship. I just love it because it's flying forward. It's a one-man, two-man ship.
Yep.
And so you're exposed so that it's like a fighter kind of, but then it lands on its back and you have a built-in gantry. It's just a really clever, nice ergonomic design for a personal small ship. I love it. And it's like, you wouldn't have a plane or a boat designed that way. That's a ship. That's a ship designed to go into space.
Yep.
I love it. But another one of my ships that is on my top 5 has all of the features that I like in terms of the ergonomics of a spaceship.
The TARDIS?
Nope. The TARDIS is my last top 5. It is the that's next. It's the Discovery from 2001.
Ah, yeah.
The sperm ship.
The sperm ship. So again, the lines of force are all in the direction of acceleration.
Yep.
And the living habitat is a sphere, and it has the rotating section for artificial gravity.
What do you think of the cockpit?
And it has the bays with the little round shuttles that it give birth to. And of course, it has nuclear engines, which are way the hell back there.
Yeah, like over there.
Yeah, so that they're out of the way, so the crew doesn't get exposed to radiation. And it feels like a spaceship. It's low tech because it's just near Earth future, 2001, where it's actually they jumped the gun on that. It's more like a 2100 ship than a 2001 ship, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's another thing we have to get into. But so I love it. I love it that it looks like a ship that was designed for space. It's iconic. It's beautiful for a low tech ship.
Yep.
And it has when you're in the movie, when you're watching it, you feel like these people are in outer space.
Yeah.
And it's very clever, and it makes you think. It makes you reorient yourself to the ship. And I like that. Did that make any of your guys' lists?
It's on my list, but it was in my lower top 10.
Yeah, top 10, but not top 5.
Not a top 5 for me.
All right.
All right, so another ship that I love is from Firefly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Serenity.
The Serenity.
The Firefly class ship, because the back lights up like a Firefly.
Yeah, and there's a few reasons why I love this ship. One, I love it because it's another lived-in ship, right?
Yeah.
They have a kitchen table in that ship. They have everybody has their own living quarters, and you get to almost get to know the ship when you watch the show.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me. It has the vibe of a submarine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's like a submarine in space, and that's okay. I could live with that, even though again it's sort of oriented the wrong way, but. And it's a low-tech ship,
and they have a big cargo hold because they're.
It's a cargo ship. It's a hauler. It's not a graceful ship, but it's got a couple of shuttles on it, and the design is pretty. So that's on my list as well. Not top 5, but that's a good ship.
And I just found out today, Liz, who is operating the cameras, is saying that they actually built the set of the ship as the ship, so it's built like in the way it would be.
Contiguous,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
You
actually
could walk around the set like you're walking around the ship.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like that.
Which I think is really cool. And the other thing too, like it has that romantic thing again. Like people live on this ship, and it's one of the characters of the show. Just like the Enterprise to me is that way too. The Enterprise is a character.
That's
on the
why
show.
we're aboard her.
That's right. Exactly. Never forget that.
All right, but top 5 though. We haven't finished our top 5.
Okay.
So now it's
yes,
time.
let's bring out the TARDIS.
So this is the last in my top 5. Is the TARDIS, and this is my personal favorite spaceship, and this is also the one that I would want to personally own.
Because of time travel
Yeah,
abilities.
well, because of multiple reasons.
Yeah, this is so many reasons.
So first of all,
I mean,
you could very quickly go anywhere in the universe
And
when in the universe,
huge.
and it could fit in your living room. You can go directly to your living room, so it's not like you have to take a shuttle to the ship or whatever. It's huge on the inside. It's bigger on the inside, right? It's huge on the inside.
Yep.
And it has a chameleon circuit, which, when working, you can look like anything. It's the doctor's is stuck as a blue police box, but so it has. I mean, what is more perfect than that utility-wise? Nothing.
Nothing.
It's the perfect
you can't really
personal spaceship.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. And the aesthetics are interesting. They're campy. They're supposed to be campy. That's the only thing I would alter. But of course, every time a new person occupies the TARDIS, it sort of reconfigures itself to that person. So I'd like to imagine that when I owned it, it would reconfigure itself to me, and I would have seats, in the command
Seats would be
center.
good.
A couple of seats would be good. Some more intuitive controls. The controls change also, to fit your quirky style. I would go a little bit more intuitive on the controls.
Yeah. Is there anything about it you don't like?
That's it. It's just that there's no seats in the cockpit, basically.
Right. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, but like I said, I imagine all those things would be fixed when I occupied the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. Otherwise, like if your fantasy, the perfect ship, that's it. How could you beat it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a warship. Doesn't have weapons.
It has a pool?
It has a pool. It has a pool. And also, it enables you to talk to any other sentient being in the universe.
That's
Hello.
huge. That's
That is
big.
huge.
A little overpowered.
And it has a somebody else's problem field, an SCP field, right? Which also is shared with another one of my top 10 ships, which is the Heart of Gold.
Heart of Gold.
Yeah,
The SCP field is from
Douglas Adams.
Douglas
for
Adams'
sure.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Basically, you don't notice it. It's not like it's invisible. You just don't notice it. In the Hitchhiker's Guide, it makes you feel like it's somebody else's problem. So, of course, you wall it off from your awareness. So I would call it an inattention field, right? Because it's there, but it's just not registering in your brain. And that's the way it works. That's the way the TARDIS works. It's an inattention field. It's just edited out of your attention. So it's there, but you just never notice it.
Yeah.
It's the perfect ship. Hello.
Yeah, it really is good. I would, when Steve mentioned this, that's a no-brainer. I mean, it's got to be. The benefits are just so in your face that it's got to be in your top 3 or if not number 1, depending on what your criteria are. And it's iconic, of course. I mean, I would compare it with the Heart of Gold in that you could pretty much go anywhere, anywhen in negligible time. So in that regard, they're very similar.
Yeah.
But the TARDIS, which means time and relative dimension in space.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Time and relative dimension in space.
But that's got just so many pluses that it's definitely
It's nice that
definitely
it's
a top
nice that
5
the
for
acronym
spaceships.
translates to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Presumably in Time Lord, it's something else,
But it's not a good-looking ship on the outside.
it could be whatever you want it to be.
I know,
If
but
the
that's-
chameleon circuit's working, you can make it look like the Enterprise if you want to.
But what does it actually look like?
Nothing. It's a gray tube, but there's
Okay, look, man, we don't have to agree on everything. I mean,
yeah. Come on, but you can make it look like whatever you
it's
want.
a fantasy ship at that point. It's like whatever.
It's super advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. All right, but the Heart of Gold has got to be on at least the top 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Well,
It's from the
for
Hitchhiker's Guide.
utility, I mean,
because
hello.
very similar utilities. You said it's bigger.
Right.
It's not. It's the same size on the inside and the outside.
The
Yeah,
improbability
it's not
drive.
in-
Infinite
It's not in your
improbability
living
drive
Right?
is just. I mean, it's such a funny concept
Yeah.
for a drive, and it's like so Douglas Adams in that
Yes.
it's farce, but it's kind of serious science at the same time
Yeah.
because it's kind of like it's quantum weirdness.
A
Weirdness.
little fairy cake thrown in.
A little bit of fairy cake, but yeah, it's like just plausible enough, but silly. I love it. The only downside is that there's kind of this weird shit that happens around you every time you go somewhere, like turning missiles into whales,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the doors have a personality that might not.
The ship is very enthusiastic.
Yes.
So it does have and we didn't mention that the TARDIS is probably sentient and has a personality too.
Yes.
That could be potentially a downside. It depends on how you look at it. The TARDIS may not always take you where you want to go. It takes you where it thinks you need to go.
Right.
And so it's not as predictable. It's not totally under your control. Whereas the Heart of Gold, it does what you want, but you have to navigate your way through some interesting personalities on board the ship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right, so now it's my turn, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, so in my top 5, it's got to be the Borg cube.
Come on.
What the hell? All right, first off, it's a cube. Yes, exactly. It doesn't need to be aerodynamic. It doesn't gimmicky. What are you talking about? First off, it's gorgeous. I think it's absolutely
gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's a cube.
It's not just a cube. Do you see the structure?
Detailed cube.
And do you want me to get up and get the cube that's over there? All right, it's on our screen. But in terms of size and power, this thing is massively impressive.
It's a
beehive. Well, yeah, that's why there's drones in it. So first off, it's got 27 cubic kilometers of space inside. The thing is utterly massive, 3,000 meters on a side. So it's a massive. But also it has enough drones. It has enough drones to assimilate an entire planet. It's got power. It's got power to.
So it takes care of all your assimilation needs.
All assimilation needs are all of that's done. But also that in terms of sheer power, this thing can take on a fleet of starships.
I hear that resistance is futile.
Yes, you are correct, sir. It can take on a fleet of starships and take them out handily.
Bob, I'm sorry, I don't like it.
And
I got to tell you something.
You're wrong.
You can't say I'm wrong about this. I guarantee you that if you ever went on that ship, it smells of rotting flesh. Think about it.
No, they're.
Yes. Did you ever see a bathtub on that ship?
It might smell of dirty flesh, but not rotting flesh. I mean,
they're kind of zombie-esque in there. Yeah.
Zombie-esque, but not dead flesh.
It's a chop shop.
Not necrotic
it's a biological
tissue.
chop shop.
Yes.
But it's not necrotic tissue.
How do you know?
Come on.
Have you ever watched this shit?
They attach a Borg arm to you. What happens to your real arm?
Yeah, where do you think
it's
they
thrown
do it?
on the pile?
Yeah, they have a pile downstairs.
And then maybe you eat it later on, but they might make it taste good. But you don't care when you're a drone. All right, how about this? Does this entice you? How about this? You could take a Borg cube and knock out 78% of it, and it'll still work fine. Can any of these other lame ships
Come on,
we
a Boeing
talked about?
747 could do that.
78%? 78%.
3 or 4 engines are gone, and you could land that puppy.
The redundancy is epic. There's no other ship that is
Higher
redundant.
than 90% would be epic.
I don't like the
78%?
aesthetic. I don't like the aesthetic.
Can you separate a section of it? Could it break into little cubes?
It has the Borg sphere that could kind of. You could kind of crap that out.
I mean, I think in all seriousness, in Star Trek, the idea that those creatures, the Borg, whatever their genesis is, they made a cube and a sphere. That makes sense.
It fits them. Yeah. So it is iconic. It does fit them because they're utilitarian. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to maximize our cubic footage for the shape. Although they should have gone with a sphere if they were going to do that.
Yeah, true.
But whatever, a Borg, whatever. They had reasons to make it into a cube because they could then have sectors, and it all makes sense.
And it was scary. It was when they went up against it, you were intimidated. It was so weird.
Yeah, and I like that it slaps you in the face with it doesn't have to be aerodynamic.
Yeah,
I like that part of it. And this undeniably powerful. I wouldn't want to live on the thing though.
No, I wouldn't either. No. I wouldn't either.
That's why
it's a huge ding.
But that's a huge ding. But a lot of these ships have a huge ding when you look at one tiny piece.
Not the TARDIS.
But okay, fine. That's why that's 1 or 2, which is fine. This is
Bob,
top 5.
You could make the TARDIS look like a cube if you want to.
That's fine.
Are we going to hear that every time?
I know, right? But what really struck me though is the power of this thing. First off, I loved the Borgs were among my favorite villains on Star Trek of all time.
You're saying that we don't understand the power of the cube.
It really is. I mean, we're talking 19 million terajoules per second. I mean, you could probably run this planet for centuries. But this is canon. Hello, we're going with what's canon about these spaceships.
Okay.
It's massively powerful. It's a force to be reckoned with. If I want to have an ally in a space battle, I would love to have a Borg cube on my side because they are truly powerfully intimidating.
Well, the Borg and their ships to me are kind of woven together in a sense. Like the cool thing about the Borg cube, especially when they first started fighting it, is like They shoot it, it does damage. They shoot it again, does a little less damage. Shoot it the third time, it doesn't do any damage.
Right.
And I always thought that the Borg were on the ship, and there's like thousands of them in there, like acting as human computers, just trying to outdo what the enemy is doing.
No, they're actually little automated machines that are crawling around and doing the repair.
Yeah.
So it also repairs itself and it learns from experience.
Self-repairing is very
This
good.
is devastatingly powerful because if you remember when the Enterprise First D went against the Borg, one shot from the phasers did some serious damage to that ship. I mean, it was like devastating damage, which is kind of weird to think about because we're used to a Borg that is a real enemy to the Federation. But the first salvo from the Enterprise was devastating.
Yeah.
But it learned so fast that that no longer was the case, and eventually, basically, you couldn't do anything against it. So I mean, that's a characteristic that very few ships have. That is another thing on that plus column. Like, damn, this is a great
Bob,
ship.
I'm glad you like it. All right, so I'm going to tell you my next one, and it's more of just the generic concept of this ship, which is the iconic like 1980s
futuristic
40s,
rocket.
50s
rocket spaceship.
It's in
Buck
thousands of
Flash
magazine
Gordon.
covers, and all these the first science fiction TV shows.
Forbidden Planet.
Exactly. The point
Forbidden Planet?
Yeah, rocket, right?
The saucer, dude.
Oh, it was a saucer. You're right. It was a saucer.
Yeah, but it's from that era though. You know what I mean?
Right. The iconic retro era.
And what's funny is I can show you pictures with Robbie the Robot where one of these is in the background, which is because it was just part of the culture back then. But the thing about this ship to me it embodies the whole passion and romance and everything about space travel and about future tech and science.
Yeah.
And I got hooked on the people that were writing, science fiction and everything. This was what inspired them, and so I got secondhand inspiration from that. And I just love this. I mean, this is such an iconic looking thing. Everybody understands what this is.
Yeah.
You can go to almost anyone on the planet, and they would know exactly what that thing is.
Yeah, I have such a renewed appreciation of this class of ship because for most of my life, when you're a kid, you love that ship, but then you graduate to the more advanced ships, Enterprise, Millennium Falcon, and you kind of like that's a kid science fiction, but it really isn't. I mean, this is really iconic. Rocketry that is gorgeous. And look online for some of these types of rockets, and we'll have one on the screen. They are beautiful, especially the ones with more detail and even windows. Oh, they are so nostalgically retro, awesome. I love them.
And they also represent like real exploration. The typical magazine cover, you'd see this in the background, and the guys, the astronaut standing in front of it on an alien planet and all that. So there's a lot to this, and this is the inspiration for so much of the science fiction that we love today. And one more quick thing, this is what's happening in our now.
Yeah.
Like with SpaceX and everything, like, we're going to have this. This is where we're actually headed to, is like these kinds of ships. So I just still love that, for T-shirts and, everything. It's just a beautiful icon.
You know what's really interesting, Jay? You can make your TARDIS look exactly like that if you want to.
Oh, my God.
All right.
Right, and the Borg Cube can kick its ass.
It could. Are we going to just... So I think that covers the core.
Right.
Yeah.
But any less obvious choices just to flesh out our lists?
Well, we've been talking a lot. You did talk about Slave One.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and going back to Star Wars and the original designs that they made for Movie 4, Luke's X-Wing fighter, it's such a cool fighter ship.
Yeah.
And the fact that the X-Wings and the wings can open and close, it's a single fighter. You have a droid that is a co-pilot, whatever.
It's warp capable.
Yeah,
such
warp
a
capable.
Small ship.
Yep.
What the hell?
Just another beautiful, iconic ship.
I have to say, my appreciation for the X-Wing increased dramatically. Not a lot I liked about The Force Awakens, but the first scene when the X-Wings show up as the cavalry to the rescue, I was so excited to see those X-Wings.
Yeah.
X-Wings are the best. They're cool, right? As for a personal one-man fighter, they're awesome. Yeah. They're beautiful ships. Yeah, absolutely.
And down to even when when the wings open and the noise that the ship makes, they did such a fantastic job.
And we have to say, the TIE fighters are just as iconic.
Without a doubt.
And they kind of go hand in hand. It's like good guy, bad guy ships.
Yeah.
You have to kind of mention them both together.
Yeah.
TIE fighters, again, beautiful design, very elegant, very simple, totally different than the X-Wing. They have their own sound that they make.
Like a screaming in space noise. Screeching.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I think of them together for
I do
obvious
too.
reasons. Yeah.
So I have one that that really maxed out on the aesthetic characteristic, and that's the Vorlon Transport.
Oh yeah,
Transport.
Yes. Yep.
That ship from Babylon 5 was so gorgeous, and a lot of it had to do with the coloration. I actually know who designed it.
It was models.
It was
Yeah, that
the
model
founder,
work.
Ron Thornton. That mottled colored look was gorgeous, and the design with the sails that can open and close,
Yeah.
so beautiful. And some of the details about the ship were fascinating. It was bio armor. This thing was essentially
The whole thing was a
alive,
living organism,
a living
yeah.
organism. And when the ship would communicate with its passenger, I mean, not just a passenger, it was like
Symbiont almost.
Symbiont almost.
Yeah.
They refer to it as singing to you. It would sing to you. And when you died, if this was your ship and you died, the ship would leave and fly like into the sun. It would kill itself. I mean, it was really kind of part of the owner.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that ship. Babylon 5 had a suite of amazingly gorgeous ships that hold up to this day.
I was going to mention for my next ship is the White Star, which was a combination of Minbari and Vorlon technology into a ship that was designed
capable,
not for
powerful.
Vorlons but for people.
Yep.
So that between the two, while aesthetically gorgeous, I would give the nod to the White Star because it was designed for, for humans and Minbari. And powerful ship, got the job done. It was, again, compared to other ships in the genre, very, very powerful.
Yep.
And again, just a gorgeous, along the same aesthetic as the Vorlon ship. Very
Agreed.
good. And we have to mention the shadow vessels were the best evil vessels in science fiction.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
they were
right?
insect-like. They were scary.
Yeah, had
when
all
they were-
those legs,
Yeah.
and they just looked menacing. They looked awesome. Again, they looked like spaceships, not like anything else.
And they were alive, basically alive, right?
Yeah.
Those ships.
The whole angel demon thing was going on between the Vorlons
Yeah,
and the shadows.
absolutely.
And I like the fact that it wasn't so clear who the good and the bad guys were at the end of the
Oh,
day.
of course, yeah. Well, they were
Great.
both kind of bad guys.
I
in a
love
weird
it.
way.
But for most of that whole entire series, that whole 5-year arc, you love the Vorlons and you hate the Shadows. When you get to the end of that last season,
It's a wash.
It's like, well, it's kind of both, which is actually a good
Well,
place
the fact
to end
that
up.
at the end, when they both kind of stepped off to the next dimension with
good
each other,
riddance.
these guys are
Spoiler
buddies.
alert.
Like all this time, the two of them, those two races have been pulling the strings. Like, get out of here,
Yeah.
I totally identified with the
Good
people, the
series.
humans.
We haven't
at the
watched
end.
it.
But
Yeah.
if you want to see, some ships, you want to see some battle, watch the last season of Babylon 5, and when it's really getting to the end game, where they call the ancient races that are still in the universe, and they come with their ships. That scene.
That was a space
that
battle.
scene, I recorded it on my phone so I could watch it whenever I wanted, because that scene was one of the best scenes over 5 years. I was waiting for that scene to happen, where these mega super advanced ships that you barely caught a glimpse of previously, when they're all duking it out and they take out the huge Vorlon planet killer ship. That was an amazing scene. And you want to see kind of like an advanced spaceship porn. That's the 1 minute scene that you got to watch, because it was gorgeous.
Yeah, so do us a favor if we left something out that you think, oh my God, what are you doing? Or you have any cool ideas.
There's so many ships with that. Obviously, we're just scratching the surface. We're just hitting the
Our
the hits.
personal faves,
We're just playing
really.
the hits. But there's a lot of ships that deserve honorable mention. Like the Nostromo, just for its utility and its size.
Yep.
The Sulak, that was the aliens military ship. You only get a glimpse of it. And they only actually finished one side of the ship because they only had to shoot it from one angle.
Yeah, nice. I didn't know
But that one angle is iconic. I mean, they very quickly established that's a really beautiful military ship.
Yep.
And again, it looks very spaceshipy.
Or even the Lex, which is basically an insect-type ship that could, from the Lex, the series Lex, that could destroy a planet. Incredibly powerful and incredibly beautiful insect-like with the compound eyes.
Yeah.
It could, if you were on the crew, because it was living. It could feed you. It keeps you alive. Beautiful ship and a real fun series. I recommend the series.
You were going to add the Death Star to the list.
I was, because I was kind of obviously going off on the whole power angle of that, and it is. I mean, you could call it a station.
It's a space
It's a
station.
space
Spaceship,
station.
No
moon. But it traveled
It
to
does.
stars. It's a spaceship as well, and I mean it's iconic, and the power was off the hook. Destroy a planet. So yeah, that's why I would have included that in my top 10, top 12, or whatever. But yeah,
It's a
Death
little
Star.
gray, I doubt there's any like pleasure holodecks on the Death Star.
No, but like I said, it was maxing out the whole power end of
Yeah.
the scale and size. I mean, come on. If you want a ship that you could spend the rest of your life in, you could.
I
do
wouldn't
worse.
want to spend the rest of my life on the Death Star.
No, but I mean, if you could kind of tweak it and make, you could build Disney World in one tiny little section of the Death Star, and you could build, something completely different somewhere else. This is the sheer size.
Yeah.
You would never get bored. Put it that way, right?
You like size and size matters? Is that what you're saying? All
I'm
right.
not even going to comment on that one.
So if you want to give us some feedback, yell at us about what ships we
We
left
could
off
always
the
do
list.
a part 2 if we get enough feedback.
But you can go to our Facebook page,
Yep.
facebook.com/Alpha Quadrant and the number 6.
And you can go to our Patreon page, become a patron of Alpha Quadrant 6, and keep us doing more of these reviews if you like them. All right, guys, you done playing with your toys?
Yes.
All right, till next time.